The void around the dead star was absolute. No heat, no light, no sound. Just the eternal silence that came after something ancient had collapsed into nothing. Yet as the patrol cruiser Veltraxis drifted closer, its sensors started screaming. "Commander Zero, we have a contact," the sensor officer croaked, sweat running down her pale green brow. "Hull signature is human." Silence settled on the command deck. The crew, a mix of Krellin, Othi, and Mirran species, shifted in their seats. No one spoke. No one wanted to. Commander Zero, an aging Krellin with iron-gray facial ridges and a jaw like a boulder, stood slowly. "That is not possible." "Confirm." "Confirmed thrice, sir." Transponder matches Earth Union designation TNS Valiant Horizon. Listed destroyed. 102 years ago. The bridge lights dimmed. Flickered. Static interference from the wreck. Perhaps. Zero's eyes narrowed. What's its status? Derelict. No power emissions. Minimal life support fields. Just floating. Armaments. Cold. Turrets stowed. No targeting systems active. Zero crossed his arms, thinking. Ghost stories of human warships had been whispered through the hegemony's fleets for decades. Tales of impossibly fast vessels appearing in the dark between stars, destroying outposts, then vanishing. Every official investigation had returned the same conclusion: superstition, propaganda from rebel elements. Nothing more. But here it was, a Terran warship, a ship that should not exist. Approach, cautiously. Keep shields up. Veltraxis moved closer, its sleek form casting long shadows across the cracked hull of the Valiant Horizon. The human vessel was a brute, wedge-shaped, plated in scorched black armor, its frame scarred by ancient battle. Near the bow, the old Terran Union insignia remained barely visible, Earth cradled in a ring of stars, a hand reaching skyward. "Sir," the communications officer said, eyes wide. "We're getting a signal." Zero's heart froze. "A signal? From that?" "Yes. It's audio only." He gestured sharply. "Put it through." A burst of static cracked over the bridge speakers. Then came a voice, cold, mechanical, unmistakably human. "This is the TNS Valiant Horizon. Classification: Battlecruiser. Terran Union designation: Earthfire Division. Status: awaiting command." The bridge went dead quiet. Zero leaned forward. "Awaiting command from whom?" No response. "Is it automated?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. There's a low-level quantum pulse, almost like an echo beacon." I think it was triggered by our proximity." Zero nodded slowly. That made sense. Perhaps it was some final defense mechanism. An ancient derelict playing its last programmed role. Guard dog for a master long dead. Scan its databanks. I want logs, locations, anything we can extract. If there's a surviving AI core. "Sir." The officer's sudden outburst chilled him. "It's powering up." "What?" "You said it was cold." "It was. But now." Power spikes across the board. Fusion cores igniting. AI systems rebooting. "Sir, this thing's waking up." The deck shuddered with the weight of that revelation. "Bring us to full alert. Ready weapons. Defensive posture. Do not engage unless fired upon." Lights across the Veltraxis glowed red as combat systems came online. On the view screen, the Valiant Horizon seemed to stretch and breathe as energy flared within its massive engines. Hull panels glowed faint orange as internal systems heated. Automated turrets extended slightly, not aimed, just poised. And then the voice returned, stronger this time. "Human, commanding, real. We remember Earth." That was all. The transmission ended. On the bridge, no one spoke. Zero's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment before he finally said, "What does that mean?" "It's not a distress signal," said the linguistics officer, a hunched Othi. "It's a declaration." Zero turned to him sharply. "Of what?" "Of intent, of identity, perhaps even retaliation." The commander's fist clenched behind his back. The Terran Union had been destroyed over a century ago. Their fleets had burned in orbit. Earth itself, cracked open by the cleansing protocols, was now just radioactive slag spinning in a quarantine system. The coalition of galactic empires, hegemony, Kalari Pact, Zenth combined, had deemed it necessary. Humanity had grown too fast, reached too far, built weapons that bent physics and minds. They refused to submit to the accord. They fought, and they were punished. But the war had never felt finished. "Get us out of here," Zero ordered at last. Back to Sector Command. Sir, the helm officer said, glancing over nervously. Shouldn't we try to disable it first? Zero shook his head. No. If that thing's really awake and hostile, we're no match for it. No one ship is. And if it's not hostile, he trailed off, uncertain which possibility scared him more. Get us out. As the Veltraxes turned and accelerated toward the edge of the dead zone, the crew watched the derelict ship fade into the black behind them. It didn't pursue, didn't fire. But as the distance increased, new signals began to flicker across the long-range scope. Ship signatures. Human. Not just one. Not just a fleet. Dozens. They blinked into existence like ghosts, appearing from dark zones, asteroid belts, deep gravity wells, ships that didn't register in any known database. Ships that didn't exist. Some were clearly military. Others bore strange, hybrid designs. Terran architecture laced with alien technology. Many bore scars of old battles, hulls patched with scavenged parts. None of them responded to hails, and one by one, they began broadcasting the same message. We remember Earth. Zero stared at the screen, horror blossoming in his chest like a nova. This isn't a coincidence, he whispered. No, sir, the sensor officer replied, her voice flat with terror. It's a reveal. 2 days later, at Sector Command, Zero presented his report. High Admiral Kothrix, a skeletal Zenth with cold, luminous eyes, listened in silence, claws steepled. You understand the implications of what you're saying? Kothrix rasped. I do, Zero said. That the humans have returned. They never left, Zero said. They hid, waited, rebuilt. And now they're reminding us of what we tried to forget. Kothrix leaned forward. Do you believe war is coming? Zero met the Admiral's gaze. No, he said. Then what is it? Zero's voice dropped low, full of the fear he tried to suppress. A reckoning. Deep within the shadowed belt of the Asterian system, a small rocky asteroid hummed quietly in the cold vacuum. To the untrained eye, it was just another lump of rock drifting aimlessly in the dark. But to those who knew, Arc 7 was a fortress, a cradle, and the last sanctuary of humanity. Here, in sprawling caverns carved from the stone itself, thousands of human descendants trained and lived. Their skin varied, from the pale, reflective faces of those born under artificial lights, to the bronzed, rugged features of those raised on distant planets. But their eyes shared the same hard gleam, a spark that refused to die. Commander Vieira Kane stood on the stage of the great training hall, her silhouette sharp against the rows of cadets assembled before her. The hall itself was a marvel, ancient Terran steel reinforced by alien alloys, walls etched with holographic images of Earth's past, forests, oceans, bustling cities, starships launching into the unknown. Kane's voice was calm, steady, yet carried the weight of a promise. We are not survivors, she began, eyes scanning the faces before her. We are the last message Earth ever sent. A hush fell over the crowd. Some nodded, some clenched fists. Others blinked back the sting of memories they'd never lived but were forced to carry. Her gaze sharpened. 102 years ago, our homeworld was lost, torn apart by fear and jealousy. Erased because those who envied us believed we would rise too quickly, become too powerful. She took a slow breath. We lost our lands, our families, our histories, but not our spirit. We have lived, we have grown, and now we prepare. From the back of the hall, a hologram flickered to life. The image was grainy but unmistakable, a star map marking the locations of human colonies, former Terran bases, and most importantly, the hidden strongholds of the Ark fleet. Our fleet is small, Kane admitted. Our numbers are few, but we are forged in the fires of loss. Every fighter pilot, every engineer, every soldier here understands this. We fight not because we want to conquer, but because we refuse to disappear. The cadets erupted into applause, the sound echoing off stone and steel, a thunder of renewed hope. Behind her, the Council of Elders, humans who had lived on Earth before its fall and carried the memories of the old world, watched quietly. They knew the danger this moment carried. The galaxy had not forgotten humanity's threat, nor would it forgive. Kane's speech was not just a rallying cry. It was a declaration, training the future. After the ceremony, Kane walked through the sprawling compound, flanked by Lieutenant Marcus Ewan, her second-in-command, a sharp-minded tactician with a haunted past. "You sound almost hopeful," Marcus remarked, eyeing her carefully. "I am," Kane replied, "because hope is all we have left. It's the weapon they cannot destroy." They passed through a hangar filled with ships, sleek fighters, corvettes patched and repainted dozens of times, and the hulking flagship Eternal Dawn, the command center for their upcoming mission. "Recon reports show the galaxy still under the control of the Coalition," Marcus said. "The hegemony, Calari, is each stronger than ever. If they see us as a threat, they'll crush us like insects." Kane smiled grimly. "They underestimated us once. We won't let that happen again." They entered the training simulators, rooms filled with holographic battlefields, zero-G combat drills, and psychological stress tests. Cadets pushed their bodies and minds to the limit, preparing for a war they barely understood but knew was coming. "Every mission we run," Kane explained to a group of new recruits, "is a message that humanity still fights, that we still remember Earth." A glimpse of the past. Later, Kane visited the Memory Vault, a sanctum beneath the asteroid, where the culture and history of Earth were preserved in digital form. Here were recorded the greatest moments of human achievement: the moon landing, the discovery of quantum entanglement, the first interstellar probes, and the harrowing footage of Earth's final hours. She watched an old Terran video showing the last broadcast from Earth's capital city, where leaders spoke of hope and defiance as bombs rained down. The words echoed in her mind. "We may fall, but we will never be forgotten." Kane's eyes glistened. She pressed a hand against the smooth surface of the holographic interface. "We carry their flame," she whispered, "not just for us, but for everyone in the galaxy who believes freedom is worth fighting for." The mission ahead. Back on the command deck of the Eternal Dawn, Kane reviewed the mission briefing with her officers. "Our goal is simple," she said, pointing at the star map. "Reach the Skirich Array. It's an ancient communication station in the heart of the galactic capital. If we can broadcast Earth's story, our true story, we can ignite hope across the stars." "Isn't that reckless?" asked Captain Arlen, the ship's chief engineer. "The Coalition won't let us near the capital. They'll send everything they have to stop us." "Maybe," Kane said, "but if we don't try, no one else will. The galaxy needs to know the truth behind Earth's fall, and that the human spirit still burns bright." Marcus nodded. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for meaning, for remembrance." Kane looked out at the stars beyond the viewport, the dark sea they were about to cross. "They called us extinct," she said quietly. "They thought the flame died with Earth. They were wrong." A final reflection. That night, Kane stood alone on a narrow ledge overlooking the colony's central courtyard. Below, human children played beneath artificial skies, unaware of the galaxy's watchful eyes. A soft chime sounded at her wrist communicator. "Commander Kane," came a voice, calm, steady, and familiar. "It's time." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. The mission that would change everything was beginning. She whispered to the stars, "For Earth, for humanity, for the last flame." The cold silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of the Eternal Dawn's engines as it slipped beyond the asteroid belt of Astharian system. Commander Vieira Kane stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead, but her mind was caught in a whirlwind of memories, ghosts of a past long buried but never forgotten. She turned away from the viewport as Lieutenant Marcus Ewan approached. "We're clear of the belt. No Coalition patrols detected so far." Kane nodded. "Good, but that won't last." Marcus shifted uneasily. "Commander, we received an encrypted transmission just before leaving Arc 7. It's from the old Earth archives." She frowned. "The archives were lost during the fall. How? Someone survived. Or something." Marcus handed her a data pad. "It's a recording from the Valiant Horizon, the battlecruiser we found in the Dead Star system." Kane's heart skipped. The ship had haunted her dreams since the patrol encounter. "Play it." The bridge's hollow projector flickered to life, displaying a grainy image of a man in a military uniform, his face tired, eyes resolute. "This is Captain Elias Thorne of the TNS Valiant Horizon. If you find this message, then all hope is not lost. The war we fought was not just for survival. It was for the future of all mankind. The captain's voice was strained, but carried a fierce determination. Our mission was secret, to carry the last flame beyond the reach of our enemies, to seed humanity's rebirth where no coalition could find us. If you are hearing this, know that the flame still burns, and you are not alone. Kane exchanged a look with Marcus. This confirms what we feared. The Valiant Horizon was more than a warship. It was a lifeboat, a siege ship. Marcus grimaced. And its crew? Survivors. Unknown, Kane admitted. But this changes everything. We're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to reunite what was broken. Ghosts in the machine. Later that evening, Kane entered the ship's AI core chamber, a cool, sterile room filled with glowing consoles and intricate circuitry. The ship's AI, an ancient but sophisticated construct named Aegis, awaited her commands. Commander Kane, the AI's voice greeted, smooth and calm. I have analyzed the transmission. It contains coordinates and logs not previously available to your fleet. Kane approached the main console. Show me. The holomap revealed a cluster of star systems far beyond known space, marked as possible Valiant Horizon waypoints. These are the locations the captain referred to? Yes, Aegis confirmed. The ship was on a secret mission to establish hidden colonies and secure caches of advanced technology. Kane's eyes narrowed. We need to find these colonies, and fast. If the Coalition discovers them first, they will use the technology against us. Marcus finished. Aegis, initiate a search protocol. Prioritize any human origin signals or artifacts in these sectors. As you command. Betrayal among the stars. Not all on the Eternal Dawn shared Kane's hope. In the shadowed corridors of the ship, Ensign Lyra Dovak, a young officer from the Calari Pact, moved silently. Her thoughts churned beneath a composed exterior. She was a spy, sent to infiltrate humanity's last stronghold, report back, and ensure the Coalition's control. She had lived among humans for years, growing to admire their resilience even as she served another cause. But loyalty was a luxury she could not afford. Tonight, she accessed a secret channel on her comlink. This is Dovak. I have new intel. The Eternal Dawn is searching for lost colonies and weapon caches. The human fleet is preparing for a war. A cold voice replied, Good. Keep feeding them misinformation. If they find those sites, we strike first. Lyra's heart tightened. Could she betray the only family she'd ever known? Echoes of Earth. In the ship's meditation chamber, Kane sought solace. The room was sparse, just a small pool of water, a single flowering plant, and a panoramic hollow projection of Earth as it once was. She reached out, tracing the forests and rivers with her fingers. This is why we fight, she whispered. Marcus entered quietly. Commander, sensors have detected a vessel approaching fast. Hostile, unknown, but it's using stealth tech. No ID signature. Kane's breath hitched. Prepare for possible contact. The bridge buzzed with tension as the unknown ship closed in. Suddenly, the comms crackled. This is Captain Elias Thorne. The voice was unmistakable, though filtered through decades of static and digital degradation. If you hear me, you are humanity's last hope. Trust no one outside your fleet. The Coalition has infiltrated your ranks. The true war begins now. The transmission cut. Kane turned sharply. That's a warning. From the past to the present, Marcus clenched his jaw. We're not just fighting the Coalition. We're fighting shadows. Our own history coming back to haunt us. A dangerous course. With the coordinates from Aegis, the Eternal Dawn altered course, plunging deeper into unknown space. The crew worked feverishly to prepare for the dangers ahead, unseen enemies, rogue factions, and the unforgiving vacuum. Kane gathered her officers for a final briefing. We are on a path no one else dares to take, she said. The secrets we seek will decide humanity's fate. We will face enemies seen and unseen. But remember, this fleet is the last flame. We carry the hopes of a species. She paused, eyes blazing. The galaxy thinks humanity is extinct. They are wrong. We are here, and we will reclaim our place among the stars. The officers saluted, resolve hardening in their expressions. Into the unknown. As the Eternal Dawn accelerated toward the coordinates, Kane stood once more at the viewport. Stars streaked past in long lines of light. Ahead lay the unknown, a future forged by the courage of those who refuse to be forgotten. She whispered to the void, "For Earth, for humanity, the flame will not go out." And with that, the last battle for humanity's survival had truly begun. The eternal dawn sliced through the blackness, a solitary beacon carrying the weight of a lost civilization. Commander Vieira Kane sat in the command center, her hands folded tightly on the console. Her mind churned with the message from Captain Elias Thorne and the new intelligence from Aegis. Every step forward was fraught with uncertainty and, worse, betrayal. Unseen eyes. The ship's corridors buzzed with tension. Subtle glances were exchanged. Whispered conversations halted abruptly when officers entered. The knowledge that a spy lurked aboard planted seeds of distrust deeper than any enemy's weapons could. Kane summoned Lieutenant Marcus Ewan for a private briefing. "We can't risk another leak," Kane said grimly. "Our plans must be airtight." Marcus nodded. "I've started a discreet investigation, but the spy is careful. Every lead turns cold." Kane's jaw clenched. "We're sitting on a powder keg. One wrong move, and it all blows up." The spy's game. Elsewhere, Ensign Lyra Dovak adjusted her uniform in the dim light of her quarters. The lines between friend and foe blurred in her mind. She had fed false data to the Coalition, but her heart ached for the humans who'd become her surrogate family. Her comlink beeped softly. "This is Dovak. New intel. The Eternal Dawn is diverting to a nearby system. The coordinates from the Valiant Horizon logs." A cold voice responded. "Continue surveillance. Confirm if there's a colony." Lyra swallowed hard, her fingers trembling. "Yes, sir." She looked out the small viewport at the stars, wondering how far she could betray before losing herself entirely. A silent world. The Eternal Dawn approached the star system designated Zeta 5, one of the secret waypoints indicated in the Valiant Horizon logs. The sensors scanned eagerly. What they found was unnerving. A small, lifeless planet cloaked in thick ion storms, barren and silent. "Scanning for any signs of life or technology," Marcus reported. "Nothing but electromagnetic interference." Kane frowned. "No colonies, no caches, a trap," Marcus suggested. "Or a dead end," Kane replied. "But we can't afford to dismiss it. Prepare a probe launch to sweep the atmosphere and surface." As the probe launched into the swirling storm, the crew watched anxiously. Seconds stretched to minutes. Then the probe's data stream lit up with an anomaly. Faint energy readings beneath the planet's surface. "Subterranean structures," Aegis confirmed. "Artificial in origin." Into the abyss, Kane ordered a small landing party. She, Marcus, and a handful of specialists boarded a shuttle, descending through the storm to the planet's surface. The tempest roared, a turbulent symphony of electric fury and crushing winds. Touching down on a barren plain, they donned environmental suits and began their trek toward the source of the signals. The landscape was desolate, rocks cracked like broken bones, the sky a permanent maelstrom of storm clouds. Yet below the surface, hidden from the tempest, something waited. The forgotten colony. Descending into a cavern entrance revealed by their scans, the landing party entered a vast underground complex, its walls lined with unfamiliar glyphs and faded Terran signage. The air was thick with the scent of ancient machinery and dust. Marcus tapped his comlink. "Commander, these structures predate the Coalition. This was one of the secret colonies." Kane's heart pounded. "If it's still operational, we may find the technology we need." They moved deeper, their suits' lights piercing the darkness. The halls were silent except for the echoes of their footsteps. Then, a flicker, something moved in the shadows. "Hold positions," Kane ordered, weapon raised. From the gloom, a figure emerged, wary but alive. An elderly man with silver hair, dressed in a worn flight suit, stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Elias Rain," he said softly. "I've waited a long time for visitors." The last scientist. Rain explained his story, a survivor of the Valiant Horizon mission, stranded after an ambush by Coalition forces. His colony had gone underground, preserving ancient technology and waiting for the day humanity might return. "We thought we were the last flame," Rain said, voice heavy with sorrow. "But hearing your ship, seeing you here, the flame still burns." He led them to a chamber filled with dormant machines, starship engines, energy cores, data banks brimming with lost knowledge. Technology far beyond what the Coalition has, Rain said. If reactivated, it could turn the tide. Kane's mind raced. We must bring this knowledge back. Rain nodded. But be warned, the Coalition knows this system is vital. They will come. A web of deceit. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Kane's suspicions about the spy deepened. Communications logs showed subtle discrepancies. She discreetly ordered the ship's security team to monitor crew activity closely. Meanwhile, Ensign Lyra Dovok struggled with her dual loyalty. The humanity she'd come to admire was on the brink of a breakthrough, and yet her duty bound her to the Coalition. A decision loomed. The ambush. As the landing party prepared to return, alarms blared. The storm outside was joined by a deadly fleet. Coalition warships decloaked in the system's orbit, cutting off escape. Trap confirmed, Marcus shouted. Kane's voice was steel. Prepare for battle. Get the colony's tech on board at any cost. The shuttle raced back to the Eternal Dawn as the first blasts hit. The battle for the flame. The ship shuddered under fire. Crew rushed to stations, the bridge alive with commands and countermeasures. Kane stood firm. Deploy countermeasures. Ready fighters. We don't go down today. Lieutenant Marcus Ewan coordinated with the engineers, sending repair crews to critical systems. Above, fighters launched into the fray, weaving through enemy fire with lethal precision. Betrayal revealed. Amid the chaos, security forces apprehended Ensign Lyra Dovok. Caught sending encrypted data to the Coalition, her cover was blown. Kane confronted her personally. Why? Kane demanded. Why betray us? Lyra's eyes glistened with tears. I believed in peace, but the Coalition offered survival. I thought I could control the damage. Kane's voice softened, but remained resolute. Survival built on betrayal is a dead end. You chose your side. A new resolve. With the enemy fleet pressing harder, the Eternal Dawn made a desperate jump through a nearby wormhole discovered in the colony's databanks. Emerging in uncharted space, Kane breathed deeply. We live to fight another day, she said. But the war is far from over. Her gaze returned to the stars. The veil of deception has been lifted. Now we fight not just for survival, but for the truth and for the future. The Eternal Dawn floated in the void beyond the wormhole, systems humming softly as the crew repaired damage from the recent battle. Commander Vieira Kane stood on the bridge, her eyes tracing the endless expanse of stars. The cost of survival weighed heavily on her shoulders, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. The discovery of the lost colony and its secrets had reignited hope, but the war was far from over. After the escape, the wormhole had spat them out into a sector uncharted by any known star maps. The crew's first priority was to regroup and assess their new position. Lieutenant Marcus Ewan stood beside Kane, monitoring sensor arrays. Our readings show multiple signals of human origin scattered throughout this sector, Marcus reported, eyes bright with cautious optimism. Kane turned sharply. Other survivors, possibly, Marcus said. Either isolated colonies or remnants of the old fleets. Kane's mind raced. The Valiant Horizon's secret mission might have succeeded in more places than they thought, but that meant danger was closer than ever. A faint signal. Aegis, the ship's AI, interrupted the conversation. Commander, I am detecting a faint distress signal originating from the planet on our starboard side. It matches human technology signatures, but with encryption protocols that are archaic. Kane motioned toward the screen. Put it through. The communication link crackled to life, and a worn, urgent voice filtered through. To any who receive this, the last beacon of freedom calls out. We are the remnants of the Liberty Fleet, survivors of the revolution. Our worlds are under siege, our people scattered. If you hear this, join us or perish. The transmission ended. Kane's jaw tightened. The revolution? That was supposed to have ended decades ago. Marcus nodded grimly. Clearly not. The Coalition's grip is tighter than we imagined. The Liberty Fleet. The ship changed course toward the planet, scanning for a safe landing zone. As they approached, the sensors revealed a battered fleet in orbit, scarred battle cruisers, small frigates, and support vessels holding a tenuous formation. This must be the Liberty Fleet, Marcus said, but they're hanging on by a thread. Kane gathered the senior officers. We don't know if they're friend or foe, but they are human. We owe it to ourselves to find out what kind of resistance remains. First contact. A small shuttle descended to the planet's surface. Kane led a landing party to meet the fleet's command. The reception was wary. General Alina Rios, the aging but fierce leader of the Liberty Fleet, greeted them. Her eyes held the weight of years of conflict. "Commander Kane," Rios said, "you've come farther than any of us dared hope. We've heard rumors of the eternal dawn, a symbol of hope. But symbols alone don't win wars." Kane stepped forward. "We have knowledge, weapons, and the will to fight. Together, we can turn the tide." Rios studied Kane. "Then tell me, what price are you willing to pay for freedom?" "A broken world." The planet was scarred by battle, cities reduced to rubble, fields scorched by plasma fire. Survivors huddled in underground bunkers, their eyes full of exhaustion and desperation. As Kane toured the settlements, she saw firsthand the cost of rebellion. Families torn apart, children orphaned, dreams shattered. "This is what we fight for," Kane said quietly. "To rebuild, to reclaim our humanity." She met with scientists who had salvaged fragments of pre-war technology, rudimentary energy shields, old AI cores, and relic weapons. "If we can combine your technology with ours," Kane told them, "we can build a fleet strong enough to challenge the coalition." Seeds of betrayal. Not everyone welcomed the Eternal Dawn's arrival. Whispers in the dark corridors revealed growing dissent. Some saw Kane as an outsider, an officer from a distant fleet with dangerous ideals. One voice rose above the rest. Colonel Dax Marin, a pragmatic and ruthless leader. He believed survival meant submission, not resistance. In a heated council meeting, Marin confronted Kane. "You risk the lives of everyone here chasing impossible dreams," he said. "The coalition's power is absolute. We should negotiate, not provoke." Kane met his gaze steadily. "And live as slaves? No. We fight because we must, because the alternative is extinction." The room erupted into arguments. The spark ignites. Amid the turmoil, Kane sought to unite the fractured forces. She addressed the survivors in a makeshift assembly hall, her voice ringing with conviction. "We are the echoes of revolution, the last stand of a free humanity. We may be scattered, but our spirit is unbreakable." She paused, scanning the crowd. "Together, we will forge a new dawn. Together, we will light the way back to the stars." The crowd erupted in cheers. Hope rekindled. A dangerous alliance. Kane and Rios worked to form an alliance, pooling their fleets and resources. Engineers and scientists collaborated, combining old and new technologies into powerful weapons and defenses. But outside their gates, danger lurked. Unbeknownst to them, coalition forces had tracked the Eternal Dawn through the wormhole. A strike fleet prepared to crush the uprising before it could ignite. The night before, that evening, Kane walked the corridors, reflecting on the road ahead. Marcus joined her quietly. "They're preparing for an assault. Intelligence suggests it could come at any moment." Kane's eyes hardened. "Then we'll be ready." She looked out a viewport at the stars, whispering a silent vow. "For every lost world, for every fallen friend, we rise." The calm before the storm. As the fleet prepared for battle, the survivors trained, repaired, and fortified. The Eternal Dawn became a symbol, not just of survival, but of resistance, of humanity's refusal to fade into the dark. Kane stood on the bridge, the weight of command heavy but steady. The war was far from over, but humanity's echo was growing louder, and soon the galaxy would hear it. The air aboard the Eternal Dawn was thick with tension. The calm before the storm had stretched on just long enough for uneasy minds to wander into the darkest corners of their memories. For Commander Vieira Kane, the battle ahead was not only against an external enemy, but also a confrontation with ghosts from her own past, haunted by memories. Kane stood alone in the ship's observation deck, staring out into the void. The stars were indifferent, cold, distant witnesses to humanity's struggle. The images replayed in her mind, relentless as the hum of the ship's engines. She remembered the fall of her homeworld, Arcadia Prime, swallowed by the Coalition's ruthless expansion. The day the skies burned with fire and her family was torn apart. A sharp knock broke her trance. Lieutenant Marcus Ewan entered quietly. "Commander," he said softly, "you've been out here a while. The crew is preparing for the assault." Kane nodded. I'm not sure I'm ready. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. None of us are. But we have to be. Uncovering the past. The mission to the Liberty Fleet had awakened more than just hope. It stirred buried secrets. The Eternal Dawn's data core contained encrypted files from the Valiant Horizon mission, fragments of a story hidden from the Coalition and the public alike. Kane and her team began the painstaking process of decrypting the files. What they uncovered was startling. Evidence that the Coalition's rise was no accident, but a calculated coup engineered by a shadow faction within humanity's own ranks, a group known only as the Ascendants. The Ascendants were former leaders, scientists, and military commanders who, decades ago, had seized power under the guise of protecting humanity from external threats. But their true agenda was control and dominance. The files revealed secret experiments, betrayals, and the systematic dismantling of free colonies. "This changes everything," Kane muttered as the images and reports flickered on the screen. "The Coalition is not just an enemy from outside. It's a monster born from within." Marcus frowned. "If the Ascendants are still pulling the strings, our fight is even more complicated." A ghost from the past. In the midst of these revelations, a sudden alert drew Kane's attention, a transmission originating from Arcadia Prime, her lost homeworld. The message was brief but chilling. "Commander Kane, this is Leah Voss. I am alive." The name hit Kane like a lightning bolt. Leah Voss was her childhood friend, a scientist who had disappeared during the Coalition's invasion. Kane's heart raced. Could it be real? Or was it a trap? The hidden sanctuary. With the Liberty Fleet's help, Kane traced the transmission to a hidden sanctuary deep beneath Arcadia Prime's surface, a place thought destroyed. Kane assembled a small team, including Marcus and a security officer named Jalen Cruz, to investigate. They boarded a stealth shuttle, descending through the planet's atmosphere, now scarred and lifeless on the surface but hiding secrets beneath. The shuttle's sensors struggled to penetrate the thick crust, but finally, a cavern entrance appeared, camouflaged and shielded. Reunion and revelation. Inside the sanctuary, they found Leah Voss, older, hardened, but alive. The reunion was bittersweet. "Kane," Leah said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You thought I was lost. I was hiding to protect something." Leah revealed the sanctuary was a research outpost where she had continued her work on a revolutionary technology, one that could shift the balance of power. "This is the key to breaking the Coalition's hold," Leah explained, showing a compact device capable of generating vast energy fields and disrupting advanced communications. But there was a catch. The technology is unstable. It could either cripple the Coalition or destroy everything in a massive cascade. Trust tested. Kane wrestled with the decision. Deploy the device and risk annihilation, or hold back and let the Coalition tighten its grip. Meanwhile, tensions aboard the Eternal Dawn escalated. Colonel Dax Marin and his faction grew more vocal, sowing dissent. Marin met privately with Leah, questioning her motives. "You expect us to gamble on some unstable tech from the past?" he sneered. "We should focus on survival, not fairy tales." Leah met his gaze defiantly. "The fairy tales are real, Marin, and they might save us all." A ship divided. The crew's divisions deepened, and Kane's leadership was tested like never before. She called a council to address the unrest, emphasizing the stakes. "We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for the soul of humanity," Kane declared. "We will face impossible choices, but together, we can endure." Some cheered. Others remained silent, shadows of doubt lingering. Betrayal unmasked. As the debate raged, Aegis alerted Kane to suspicious activity in the ship's data network. Unauthorized access attempts were traced to an insider. Security moved quickly, apprehending a crew member, a communications officer named Saren Klein, caught sending encrypted messages to unknown recipients. Under interrogation, Saren revealed he was a sleeper agent for the Ascendants, sent to sabotage the Eternal Dawn's mission. The enemy within. Kane's heart hardened. The Ascendants had infiltrated deep into the fleet, and their reach was far greater than anticipated. "We face enemies without and within," Kane told her officers grimly, "but we will not break." Saren was detained, and the ship's security protocols were tightened, preparing for war. With Leah's technology integrated cautiously, the Eternal Dawn and the Liberty Fleet began final preparations. Scientists worked tirelessly to stabilize the energy device, while engineers fortified the ship's defenses. The crew trained relentlessly, readying for the Coalition's inevitable assault. A silent resolve. On the eve of battle, Kane stood again at the observation deck, her thoughts drifting to her past and the uncertain future. Marcus joined her, sharing the silence. "We may be shadows of what we once were," Marcus said quietly. "But even shadows can cast light." Kane smiled faintly. "Then let's be that light." As the stars shimmered beyond the viewport, the Eternal Dawn braced for the storm to come. The quiet before the storm had shattered. The Eternal Dawn and the Liberty Fleet were no longer just survivors. They had become the beacon of humanity's last great hope. But hope alone could not win wars. Now came the test of fire, the battle to reclaim freedom from the iron grip of the Coalition. The Coalition's arrival. Sensors flared across the Eternal Dawn's command bridge. Multiple signatures detected. Enemy fleet approaching, Lieutenant Marcus Ewan announced, voice steady but tense. Commander Vieira Kane leaned forward, eyes sharp and unwavering. Estimate: 3 hours until engagement range, Commander. The Coalition fleet, a sprawling armada of warships and dreadnoughts, moved with mechanical precision, bristling with weapons designed to obliterate any resistance. Rallying the fleet. In the fleet's central command, General Elena Rios convened with Kane and other officers. "We face an enemy that outnumbers us and outguns us," Rios said grimly. "But they lack our spirit." Kane nodded. "We must use every advantage: terrain, technology, and surprise. We fight not just for survival, but to ignite a rebellion that will spread across the galaxy." The fleet's captains coordinated, plotting evasive maneuvers and attack formations designed to compensate for their smaller numbers. The battle begins. The first shots rang out as Coalition ships unleashed plasma barges, their fiery trails slicing through space. The Eternal Dawn led the charge, its new energy shields, the product of Leah Voss's unstable technology, shimmering like a protective veil against the onslaught. Kane commanded from the bridge, issuing orders with calm authority. "Focus fire on the lead destroyers. Marcus, deploy drones to flank their lines." The small fighter escorts darted through space like angry hornets, disrupting enemy formations and buying precious time. Chaos and courage. Explosions rocked the Eternal Dawn as enemy missiles penetrated outer defenses. The ship lurched, alarms blaring. "Damage to the starboard reactor," the chief engineer reported, diverting power to shields and weapons. Kane clenched her jaw. "Keep us steady. We hold this line." Below decks, the crew fought fires and repaired critical systems with tireless resolve. Each member understood the stakes. Failure meant extinction. A bold maneuver. Kane saw an opening, a narrow asteroid field that Coalition ships hesitated to enter due to the risk of collision. "Prepare to lead the fleet through the asteroid belt," she ordered. "It's our best chance to break their formation." Pilots exchanged wary glances. The maneuver was risky, but necessary. "Engage thrusters. Maintain tight formation," Kane instructed. The fleet dove into the swirling mass of rocks, plasma blasts lighting up the chaos as ships weaved and dodged with desperate agility, turning the tide. Inside the asteroid belt, the Eternal Dawn's energy shields held strong, absorbing impacts and deflecting debris. The Coalition's larger ships struggled with maneuverability, colliding with asteroids or becoming easy targets for the fleet's agile fighters. Taking advantage, Kane ordered a concentrated strike on the enemy flagship. Target their command bridge. Disable their coordination. Missiles streaked forward, guided by precise calculations. The flagship shuddered as explosions tore through its hull. A personal duel. As the flagship faltered, Kane's ship was locked onto by a sleek enemy hunter, a single-pilot fighter designed for close combat. On the bridge, Marcus spotted the threat. "Enemy fighter closing in on us." Kane grabbed the controls herself, directing the ship's defensive turrets. The hunter weaved through laser fire, closing fast. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Kane ordered. The two ships danced a deadly ballet through the asteroid field, exchanging fire and dodging debris. Kane's years of training and instinct guided the Eternal Dawn as she executed a daring barrel roll, catching the hunter off guard. With a final pulse blast, the enemy fighter exploded into fragments. Victory and loss. The flagship, crippled and leaderless, retreated. The coalition fleet broke formation and withdrew, their dominance challenged for the first time in decades. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but the victory was bittersweet. Several ships had been lost, and many brave souls were gone. Kane stood on the bridge, her gaze somber. "We won this battle," she said softly. "But the war continues. The spark spreads." News of the battle's outcome rippled through human colonies and resistance cells. Radio broadcasts, encrypted messages, and secret transmissions carried the tale of the Eternal Dawn's defiance and the Liberty Fleet's courage. Across the galaxy, suppressed populations stirred. Kane received messages from distant worlds, some in desperate need of help, others offering aid. A new alliance. With momentum on their side, Kane and General Rios reached out to other factions, former enemies, neutral systems, and underground movements. Many were hesitant, scarred by years of oppression and fear. But the victory rekindled hope. One by one, alliances formed. A coalition of the free. The cost of war. Amid the celebrations, Kane walked the corridors of the ship, visiting the wounded and comforting the grieving. She met with Jalen Cruz, the security officer, who bore scars both physical and emotional. "We're paying a high price," Jalen said quietly. Kane nodded. "Freedom is never free." A quiet resolve. That night, Kane found herself again at the observation deck. The stars seemed to burn brighter now, not just distant suns, but the fires of rebellion spreading across humanity. Marcus joined her. "What's next, Commander?" Kane looked out into the void, her voice steady. "We keep fighting. We keep pushing. We become the spark that lights the darkness." The first victory against the coalition had sparked a firestorm of hope and rebellion across the galaxy. But with every gain came new challenges, and the consequences of war echoed far beyond the battlefield. As the Eternal Dawn and the Liberty Fleet basked briefly in their triumph, Commander Vieira Kane faced the complex realities of leading a growing, fragile alliance of freedom fighters. The aftermath of battle. The aftermath of the battle was a whirlwind of activity. Repair crews worked around the clock on the Eternal Dawn and allied ships. Supplies were running low, and the scars of combat were visible everywhere. Hull plates scorched and dented, corridors filled with quiet conversations and subdued pain. Kane walked through the ship's medical bay, observing the wounded, young and old, seasoned fighters and civilians. All bore the cost of resistance. She paused beside a cluster of soldiers sharing whispered stories, their voices hushed but resolute. "We fought hard," one said, "but the coalition will come back stronger." Kane nodded silently. The truth was undeniable. The coalition's resources and reach were vast. This war would not be won by single battles alone. The burden of leadership. In the command center, Kane met with General Alina Rios and her senior officers to discuss their next moves. "We can't just defend," Rios said sharply. "We have to take the fight to them. Hit their supply lines, disrupt their communication networks." Kane tapped her fingers thoughtfully on the console. "Agreed. But we must be careful not to overextend ourselves. We are a growing coalition, but still fragile." Her voice carried the weight of experience, a leader who understood that every decision could mean life or death for thousands. The room was silent for a moment before Lieutenant Marcus Ewan spoke up. "We need intelligence. We're flying blind on most fronts. A dangerous mission." To gather vital intel, Kane authorized a covert operation deep into coalition-held territory. She selected a small team of elite operatives, led by Captain Jalen Cruz. Their mission: infiltrate a heavily guarded communications hub and extract data on coalition troop movements. The team prepared under strict secrecy. Every detail mattered. Failure would mean capture or death, and the loss of critical intelligence. Before departure, Kane pulled Jalen aside. "This mission is crucial," she said. "Bring our people home." Jalen gave a firm nod. "We'll do everything we can." Into the lion's den. The infiltration team slipped through shadows, navigating through the labyrinth of coalition fortifications on the desert planet Verid Prime. The landscape was harsh and unforgiving, endless dunes of red sand and jagged rock formations, monitored by drones and patrols. Jalen's team moved silently, avoiding detection as they neared the target. The communications hub was a fortress surrounded by energy barriers and armed sentries. Using stolen access codes and stealth technology, the team breached the outer defenses, slipping inside under the cover of darkness. The cost of secrets. Inside the hub, they located the central data core, a massive array of servers humming with encrypted information. Specialist Lyra Valen worked quickly to extract the files, fingers flying over the console. Suddenly, alarms blared. Compromise detected, a robotic voice announced. The team's cover was blown. Fight or flight. The infiltration turned into a desperate escape. Sentries flooded the corridors, and Jalen's team fought with precision and determination. Energy weapons discharged, echoing off steel walls as the operatives engaged the enemy. Casualties mounted. Lyra took a hit but kept moving, clutching the data drive tightly. "We have what we came for," she gasped. Jalen ordered a retreat toward their extraction point, the sound of pursuit close behind. Narrow escape. As the team reached the extraction zone, a coalition dropship waited, engines roaring. Jalen and the survivors boarded hastily, firing at the enemy as they lifted off. The ship shook under enemy fire but broke through the defenses. Back aboard the Eternal Dawn, the data was secured. Kane studied the files, detailed plans showing coalition troop deployments, supply routes, and command hierarchies. Revelations and resolve. The intel revealed a dark truth. The coalition was preparing a massive offensive, aimed at crushing the rebellion's strongholds once and for all. Kane convened a war council. "We have days, maybe hours, before their assault begins," she said. "We must prepare defenses and rally our allies." The fleet mobilized, sending urgent calls to resistance cells across star systems. Voices of the rebellion. Meanwhile, the rebellion's message spread through pirate radio broadcasts, coded transmissions, and public speeches from hidden leaders. Kane's own broadcast became legendary, inspiring those living under coalition oppression. Her words echoed through cramped quarters and desolate planets alike. "We fight not for conquest, but for freedom." For every voice silenced, 1,000 more will rise. Internal struggles. But the revolution was not without its fractures. Dissenters within the coalition of rebels questioned Kane's leadership and strategy. Colonel Dax Marin, imprisoned but still wielding influence, whispered through loyalists. "Her idealism will get us killed," they warned. "We need harder tactics, harsher decisions." Kane faced these challenges with calm conviction, refusing to let fear fracture their fragile alliance. A moment of humanity. In a quiet moment, Kane visited the ship's observation deck again. Marcus joined her, handing over a cup of steaming tea. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. Kane considered. "Regret is a luxury. We do what must be done, but I hold on to hope. Hope that we'll see a future where no child fears the coalition's shadow." Marcus smiled. "We'll get there." The calm before the storm. As the Eternal Dawn and Liberty Fleet braced for the coalition's impending assault, the crew found moments to prepare in their own ways. Some wrote letters, others checked their weapons, and many simply stared into the endless stars, wondering what lay beyond. Kane spent the last night before battle writing a message to her lost homeworld. "To Arcadia Prime, wherever you may be, we carry your memory with us. We fight for you. We will not forget." The call to arms. Dawn broke over the vastness of space, casting a pale light on the fleet's gathered ships. Kane addressed her crew and allies one final time. "We face the greatest test of our lives. The coalition will come with everything they have, but we are not alone. We are the voice of humanity's unbroken spirit." She paused, letting the silence fill the room. "Hold fast, fight hard, and remember, freedom is worth every sacrifice." The Eternal Dawn surged forward, leading the charge into a war that would echo through the ages, the fires of revolution burning bright against the darkest night. The coalition's massive offensive had begun. The intelligence recovered by Captain Jalen Cruz's team painted a grim picture, a meticulously coordinated campaign to crush the Liberty fleet and snuff out the flickering embers of rebellion once and for all. Now, the fate of humanity's last free bastion rested on the shoulders of Commander Vieira Kane and the defenders of Arcadia Prime, the legendary homeworld of the original human colonies and a symbol of freedom. Arcadia Prime, the heart of rebellion. Arcadia Prime, with its sprawling cities nestled beneath sweeping blue skies and lush forests, was more than just a planet. It was a symbol of hope and resilience. It had been a beacon for years, a rallying point for freedom fighters, refugees, and survivors alike. The coalition knew this and had set their sights on reducing the planet to ruins, crushing the rebellion's morale. On board the Eternal Dawn, Kane stood before a holographic display of Arcadia Prime, watching the flurry of coalition warships assembling in orbit. "This will be their final attempt," Kane said quietly, voice heavy with resolve. "If they take Arcadia, it's the end for us all." Preparing the defenses. The Eternal Dawn and the Liberty fleet raced against time to fortify Arcadia's defenses. Orbital stations were reinforced with shield generators, anti-aircraft turrets, and rapid response fighter squadrons. Ground forces marshaled in underground bunkers and fortified cities, preparing for a siege unlike any other. General Elena Rios coordinated the planetary defense with grim determination. "We hold the line here, no matter the cost," she told her officers. "We cannot let the coalition break our spirit or our home." The calm before the storm. As the fleet prepared, a fragile calm settled over Arcadia Prime. Citizens went about their final preparations, boarding evacuation ships, securing homes, or volunteering for defense squads. Kane walked the streets with Marcus Ewan, observing the people whose lives would be forever changed by the impending siege. "They believe in this cause," Marcus said softly. "That faith is why we fight." Kane smiled sadly. "It's what makes us human." The first salvo. The coalition struck with terrifying precision. Massive dreadnoughts unleashed volleys of plasma and missile barrages, lighting the sky with fire. Orbital stations shook under the assault, some forced to shut down to prevent catastrophic damage. The Eternal Dawn led the defense, weaving through enemy fire, deploying countermeasures, and guiding fighter squadrons into battle. Kane stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the battle unfolding around her. "Hold your positions," she commanded. "Protect the civilians. We'll push them back." Ground assault. While space battles raged above, coalition dropships delivered heavily armed troops and mechanized units to Arcadia's surface. Cities turned into battlegrounds, streets echoed with the roar of firefights and explosions. Resistance fighters engaged in guerrilla tactics, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to strike and vanish. Jalen Cruz led a strike team to sabotage enemy supply depots, hoping to slow the coalition's advance. Sacrifice and loss. The battle was brutal. The coalition's overwhelming numbers and firepower forced the defenders into constant retreat. Arcadia's ancient forests were scorched, its cities scarred by relentless fighting. Many lives were lost, friends, comrades, innocents caught in the crossfire. Kane received reports of entire neighborhoods devastated, families separated, and brave fighters falling to the tide. Yet, amidst the devastation, the people fought on, inspired by Kane's leadership and the belief that freedom was worth every sacrifice. A turning point. As the siege dragged on, Kane devised a daring plan, a coordinated strike against the coalition's command ship orbiting above Arcadia. The goal was simple: decapitate the enemy's leadership and disrupt their control. The plan involved a risky infiltration by Captain Jalen Cruz's team, supported by the fleet's firepower to distract and divide the enemy. The infiltration. Jalen's team slipped through coalition defenses, boarding a stealth shuttle bound for the command ship. Inside, they faced tight corridors, automated defenses, and heavily armed guards. Tension mounted with every step as the team fought their way deeper into the ship. Lyra Vallon, the tech specialist, worked to hack security systems while Jalen and others engaged in close-quarters combat. The command ship assault. Reaching the command bridge, the team confronted the coalition's commander, a cold, calculating officer named General Voren. A fierce battle erupted, weapons clashing and strategies tested. Though outnumbered, Jalen's team leveraged their agility and determination, eventually overpowering Vorin and seizing control. Breaking the chain. With the command ship captured, chaos spread through the Coalition fleet. Ships lost coordination, their attacks faltering. Taking advantage, the Liberty fleet launched a massive counterattack. The Coalition's forces, shaken and leaderless, began to retreat. Victory and vigilance. Arcadia Prime was saved, but at a tremendous cost. Cities lay in ruins, countless lives were lost, and the scars of war were deep. Kane addressed the survivors, her voice a steady beacon amid the devastation. We have won this battle, but the war is not over. We rebuild, we resist, and we rise stronger. A new dawn. As the fleet regrouped, alliances grew stronger. The people of Arcadia and the Liberty fleet understood that freedom was fragile and had to be fiercely protected. Kane looked to the stars, knowing that their fight was far from finished. The siege of Arcadia was a testament. Humanity would endure, rebel, and prevail. The dust of war settled slowly over Arcadia Prime. The planet bore the scars of the Coalition's siege, shattered cities, smoldering forests, and countless lives lost. Yet, even amidst devastation, the spirit of humanity refused to be extinguished. Commander Vieira Kane stood at the forefront of this new era, leading the Liberty fleet and the countless rebels toward a future forged from resilience and hope. Rebuilding from the ashes. Arcadia Prime was no longer just a battlefield. It had become a symbol of rebirth. Survivors, refugees, and fighters alike worked tirelessly to rebuild homes, infrastructure, and trust. Makeshift hospitals were established from the ruins of former buildings, and engineers repurposed damaged ships and technology to create new tools for survival. Kane walked through the bustling refugee camps, greeted by weary but determined faces. Children played in dusty streets, soldiers repaired barricades, and volunteers distributed food and medical supplies. The heavy burden of loss weighed on them all, but there was a shared sense of purpose. A new coalition. The victory at Arcadia Prime galvanized support across star systems. More colonies and systems pledged allegiance to the Liberty fleet, swelling its ranks. Rebel cells that had once operated in isolation began uniting under Kane's banner, creating a formidable coalition of freedom fighters, scientists, engineers, and diplomats. Diplomatic envoys arrived from distant worlds, bearing messages of solidarity and offers of aid. Kane recognized that winning the war required more than military might. It demanded unity, innovation, and diplomacy. The legacy of leadership. Kane's leadership became legendary, not just for her tactical brilliance, but for her ability to inspire and unite. In private moments, however, she bore the weight of responsibility deeply. One evening, aboard the Eternal Dawn, Kane stood alone on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Marcus Ewan joined her quietly. "You carry a heavy burden," he said gently. Kane nodded. "Every life lost, every decision made, it stays with me." Marcus smiled. "But so does every victory. You're the reason this fight continues." The Coalition strikes back. The Coalition, though reeling from the loss of their command ship and the failed siege, was far from defeated. Intelligence reports showed regrouped forces gathering in the outer systems, preparing for another assault, one potentially even more devastating. Kane knew this war would be a long and grueling test of endurance. The Coalition's power was immense, but the Liberty fleet's resolve was stronger. Innovations of war. To meet the growing threat, scientists and engineers within the Liberty fleet pushed the boundaries of technology. New weapons systems were developed, adaptive shields, faster-than-light communication networks, and AI-assisted battle strategies. Kane personally oversaw the integration of a new AI named Argus, designed to analyze battle scenarios and provide real-time tactical recommendations. Argus will not replace human judgment, Kane emphasized during the launch. It's a tool, a partner in this fight. The human factor. Despite technological advancements, Kane never lost sight of the most crucial element: humanity. The diverse crew of the Eternal Dawn and the Liberty Fleet were a microcosm of the rebellion, individuals from different planets, cultures, and backgrounds united by a common cause. Kane fostered an environment of respect, inclusion, and mutual support. Training programs emphasized not only combat skills but also cultural understanding and emotional resilience. A message to the galaxy. Recognizing the power of communication, Kane began broadcasting a galaxy-wide transmission. Her message was clear and uncompromising. We are the Liberty Fleet. We stand for freedom, dignity, and the right of all sentient beings to live without oppression. The Coalition's reign of fear ends now. Join us, and together we will shape a future where hope triumphs over tyranny. The Turning Tide. Inspired by Kane's words, more systems joined the rebellion. Supply lines were secured, and new bases established. Rebel fighters, once scattered and vulnerable, now operated with coordination and strength. Small victories accumulated, sabotage missions, rescue operations, and strategic strikes chipped away at the Coalition's grip. The final campaign. With resources and allies amassed, Kane prepared the Liberty Fleet for the ultimate campaign to overthrow the Coalition's regime. The plan was ambitious: simultaneous strikes on key Coalition strongholds, coordinated uprisings on occupied planets, and a push to reclaim the capital system. Every detail was scrutinized, every risk calculated. Sacrifice and unity. As the final campaign commenced, the Liberty Fleet faced fierce resistance. Casualties mounted, and the price of freedom became painfully clear. In one harrowing battle, Kane's flagship was nearly destroyed, and several close comrades were lost. But even in the darkest moments, the crew's spirit remained unbroken. Kane addressed them, voice resolute and unwavering. We fight for those who cannot. We fight for the future we believe in. Together, we are unstoppable. Victory and a new dawn. After months of relentless fighting, the Coalition's regime collapsed. Capitals fell, leaders were captured or fled, and systems declared independence. The galaxy's people emerged from the shadow of oppression, ready to rebuild and redefine their destiny. Kane stood before a gathering of representatives from liberated worlds. We have endured the darkest night, she said. Now, we must build a future worthy of our sacrifices, a future of peace, justice, and unity, a legacy forged. The war was over, but the work had just begun. Kane vowed to lead not as a conqueror, but as a guardian of freedom and a champion of humanity's enduring spirit. The eternal dawn became a symbol, not just of war, but of hope reborn. And as the stars shone bright once more, the people of the galaxy knew one truth. Humanity had risen like a phoenix, stronger and more united than ever before.